Welcome back to the Mars Podcast. I am your gracious host, Marshall Woodworth. This is a podcast that concerns lots of random topics, social issues. So far, we've been on one single topic. We have not been able to move. I would love to move on and present all kinds of cool stuff to talk about, but we've been stuck on Star Wars. Because I'm not a hardcore Star Wars fan. I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan. In episode 8, as I've talked about in all of the previous podcasts, it's the same issue. We've talked about in the last one retcon, and retcon means to take something that's already known, already has a known quantity and value, and bring it up to date by forcefully inserting new meanings or new characteristics, particularly in this case on Star Wars characters. Our main issue is with episode 8 is that Luke Skywalker's character was drastically changed. Now, I like old people. I like old things and antique things. I grew up around a lot of old people. I enjoyed, for about the first half of episode 8, I enjoyed old Luke. I kind of like that he was like, maybe just that arthritis, and the Force don't handle arthritis well, or maybe he had a tumor or a toothache and there's no dentist or whatever, and he's just jaded and chiseled. He's been in there a long time, man. There ain't even no running water. The man's got to go down to the beach to go take a poop. Anyway, so I was okay with the bitter Luke. However, about halfway through the film, we can't look at this to the whole film. He needs to get his ass up and be mother Luke Skywalker and save the galaxy. Another criticism: save the galaxy from what? The First Order? I thought the Empire. I thought that we already took care of this in the original trilogy. Like, what's going on? Why are they back? All new. What's going on? No explanation. This is a criticism of Episode 7 and J.J. Abrams' writing. No explanation. How did this? It just rose from the ashes. Like what? Old Star Wars, we had 3 prequel movies to explain the rise of the Empire, and now this one's just like, boop. You got to remember, the last thing we saw was the Ewoks dancing and celebrating after the Death Star blew up. They're just a party. The last thing we saw was a party. And now this which is an awesome scene, by the way. Awesome. I loved it. I'm not going to lie. I loved it. However, I am going to criticize that there's no explanation into this New Order. First Order. New Order is a band, and they do good stuff from the 80s. Tell me how do I feel? Tell me now, how do I feel? I'm going to explain to you, why do Star Wars fans care so much? Why do we care so much? Why do we get so mad? People are like, just get over it. Just get over it. Like, why do you like Star Wars so much, dude? Chill. It's just a movie. Yes, it is just a movie. You're right. It is just a movie. There's no way around that. And I ask myself that question, like even in this very moment, like, is this just absurd to just have all this time spent on this? And the answer is no. It's because it's something that we care about, and it's something that has affected generations of people. I don't have to validate why I care about something. Go ask a farmer, why does he like to run his tractor, and why does he, go ask the artist why they like to paint, go ask the architect what people like different things in life for different reasons. Apparently there's some universal applicability within the realm of Star Wars that applies to millions and millions and millions of people at the same time. A lot of it has to do with Joseph Campbell and the myth, the book, the hero of the 5 faces, and all that kind of But anyway, we don't have to go into that. What we're trying to show in this single podcast is 2 things. 1, Why do people care so much about Star Wars? Why do these so-called quote-unquote Hidalgo and Chuck Wendig and all these people attacking us? Overweight white men. Like, I am a white man.
It is never okay to make fun of someone based on their weight, based on their ethnicity, based on their age. And that is something that you did, and that is something you are teaching your children.
These days, people are not hearing, what a lot of the fans are saying. That's what led to all of this. When people started calling the fans racist, when they started calling them threatened by women, they started calling us, just everything in the book, just because people started saying they didn't like this movie.
Got a little petard, a paunch there, you can see. I'm not particularly fit, but I mean, I don't know. I do a couple of, but and I do eat too much fast food. It is true. I don't drink too much Coke. I only have like one Coke every couple of weeks or something. Too much coffee, I would say that, but good coffee. We usually get in this household pretty good coffee. Why we particularly care so much about it. Why don't we get this type of caring from children who grew up on the prequels and now they're 22 or 25? Why don't they feel so strongly connected to the prequel? Why does this particular age group, again, give or take 6, 7, maybe even 8 years, care so much about such a silly movie or a silly trilogy? You know what I mean? Like, why? I'm going to show you why. And B, how can He-Man save Star Wars?
I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, "By the power of Grayskull, I have the power!"
How does it feel to treat me like you do? When you laid your hands on me and told me who you are. Thought I was mistaken. I thought I heard your words. Tell me, how do I feel? Tell me now, how do I feel?
Both of my parents are divorced twice. There were so many of us. That were the children of divorce. And the particular movies that came out at that time, there just happened to be an explosion in special effects. We grew up in this hybrid time at the actual evolution, a giant evolutionary step in cartoons. The old cartoons were silly, like Disney.
There he goes! Suffering sacrifice.
Now they had Warner Brothers, which has lots of adult themes.
Good evening, Mr. Wise Mola.
Oh, das deutsche Flappen geflogen, with the commandos and they're all over the place. Oh, verstucken.
I love you, love you.
Mom, Dad, railroad track.
Warner Brothers was arguably just as much for adults as for children. There was a change. I think it was had a lot to do with the development of Hanna-Barbera. They basically used a cheap process. They were cheap. They were miser cartoons because instead of using 24 frames a second like all the cartoons before then, they went down to, I think, 12 or 14. I don't remember exactly, but it's less frames. And they had less things moving. And they would use stock footage, so they play the same stock footage over and over. So the characters are always like very stiff.
You will do whatever I tell you to.
Yes, Skeletor.
First, we'll put you away in a nice, cozy place.
Hello, Tila. How are you? I'm doing fine, He-Man.
Why did you free me instead of one of the others?
Because you are my son, Adam.
Point is that these cartoons were so helpful to us kids who were going through our parents fighting. And it was a form of escapism. Me and my sister in Marksville every other weekend see my dad, and he has 4 daughters. But at this time, I think it was just Tasha. Maybe Candy had just been born, I think. But we're watching He-Man.
Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together, we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor.
He-Man, I have the diamond ray of disappearance.
Well, who asked you, you little vermin?
You know, and He-Man's running around in furry pink panties. And
What you done here, Adam? A work of art like my famous spiced bread takes time, Cringer.
they're always perfectly bowed up giant bodybuilder dudes.
Those great, gorgeous muscles of yours are totally useless.
Which is a little boy, you know, I'm just like, dang, like admiring, like, dang, I don't know how they look like that, you know. But I was an admirer of the way, the finesse of the looks, and the women always were like full thighs, like they weren't European skinny, like those skinny women, like oof, no. But they were like nice, voluptuous kind of, but they were bad.
Let you who were once king of Eternia now be king of goats!
Hanna-Barbera realized, the makers of He-Man realized that they weren't cashing in on the entire audience because clearly He-Man was meant for boys, or only boys were watching it. Mostly boys were watching it, and Tasha would watch it with me. I think just because it's an interesting looking cartoon. It has like colors and lots of fun stuff to look at and fun music. But they knew that they were losing the little girls as much. There wasn't enough girls. So they created She-Ra.
I am Adora, He-Man's twin sister and defender of the Crystal Castle. This is Spirit, my beloved steed. Fabulous secrets were revealed to me the day I held aloft my sword and said, "For the honor of Grayskull!"
Oh, man. It was this whole other world of stuff. Now, I didn't respond to it as much because it's clearly meant for little girls more. There was like brighter, more neon colors. To me, were like too aggressively like safety neon colors. I enjoyed watching it because I enjoyed watching it with my sister. I enjoyed being with her and enjoying that she enjoyed it, you know. And she would sit and watch He-Man with me. She didn't have to watch He-Man with me. But He-Man came on first, and we knew it. She'd kind of wait patiently and go through that with me. And then She-Ra would come on. She's I think the twin sister of He-Man or something like that.
Adora, the Horde stole you from your parents when you were a tiny baby. So you never knew your mother, and you never knew your father. But you also had a twin brother. This man is your brother, Adora.
So they created this whole backstory that didn't exist before in this film called He-Man and She-Ra and the Sword of Power. Oh, is that the name of it? I don't remember.
For the honor of love, by the power above, I have the power.
And they created this new character, and then all of a sudden they had a way bigger audience. And this went on for like 3 years. There's quite a while for a cartoon to just run a series like that. There was a cartoon called Transformers. Had its own specific looking animation. Later on, years later, this would be known to be Japanimation.
I don't know who you are, but you saved our lives. We're Autobots. We're from Cybertron, a planet far from Earth.
Another planet? That's awesome.
Those who tried to harm you are called Decepticons. We must stop them before they destroy your world.
Optimus Prime was quoted in this article I read recently. He was the mech daddy of our generation. It's very true.
We're here to guard the robot, not to make jokes at its expense.
To put it in a box, it was our escapism while the fighting was going on in the background. It was a way for us to still be in the house because you couldn't really leave. You're a child, you know, even though we were forced to go outside. You get whipped, you know, go outside for 3 hours. The water hose is out there. You know, we were definitely kids outside, but at night, you know, fightings and things, you're in the house. So being able to go into a room and turn on a television and watch the Muppet Show, being able Saturday morning to chill with Dad, he's making coffee, cafe au lait, and watch, you know, He-Man or whatever was on TV at that time, was such a great way to just get your mind off of all the heavy stuff going on around you. In 1977, or 76, when George Lucas was signing the paperwork to get the money to make a film called Star Wars, first one ever, the president of Fox, the people over there, did not value or understand the power of merchandising. And George Lucas put it in his contract that he owned all the merchandising. Fox effed up because George Lucas and Star Wars are in a large way responsible for what we know as movie cinematic merchandising. Not that they invented it, but they used it in a way that was, it's arguably that most of the money from Star Wars comes from merchandising. It doesn't come from watching the films in a movie theater. It comes from all the merch, the T-shirts, the cereals, the toys, the special edition films, the video games, you know, the curtains. We all had Empire Strikes Back curtains. We all had Millennium Falcon pajamas and calzones as little boys. Everybody had something like that. So merchandising is what has allowed Star Wars to be the giant Lucasfilm. What funded all of this stuff going on, the revolution in special effects, what funded the revolution in special effects? It largely was with Stanley Kubrick, 2001, and Empire Strikes Back. Huge special effects. To me, the best science fiction film ever made. Huge revolution in special effects. And optical compositing. You could look that up. This was celebrated and reflected in all the little toys that they sold and all the little T-shirts, and that's what made, it's like, that's what made America great or whatever, but that's what made Star Wars great, is the merchandising, not exactly the movies themselves. All the cups. I remember going to Burger King, getting Jabba the Hutt. You can get a glass with Jabba the Hutt, like not quite a pint glass, but a pretty big, awesome glass. And Aunt Marlene, I remember, had like 5 of these it was amazing, Jabba the Hutt glasses to go and get you some water in that Jabba the Hutt glass. And cool. But that has continued. However, we were the original one, and there was nothing before that to really understand. Like, it was an amazing, crazy thing. So we're the ones who, since this is the first time that this happened, we were the ones consuming and buying. And we have continued over the years to, I personally have bought all those goddamn special editions. I saw each special edition at 5 times per one at the movie theater in 97. How many of the toys did my mom buy me? How many Star Wars soundtracks did my mom buy me? How many soundtracks have I bought of the Star Wars over and over and over? And they kept re-releasing them. The special editions that were released and then re-released and then re-released and re-released. I played the role-playing game Star Wars. How many books? Each book was at the cheapest softcover, $15. Hardcover, thicker ones, the Star Wars trilogy role-playing game was like $45, $50. I owned 22 or 23 of these books. Whatever the math is on that. My mom found them because I was too into it. She burned them. I bought them all back. So factor in all that money. We're the ones who buy the tickets and go obsessively see the movies over and over. We're the ones who buy the toys and buy the croissants and the curtains and the bedspreads. It is our generation that empowered Star Wars and made it great. So when you piss us off or give us a movie like Episode 8, Solo was actually not that bad. I enjoyed Solo. I saw it 3 times. We're going to stop buying all that merchandise, and then you see what happens when we do. You get all those unbought toys of Episode 8, arguably part of the reason why Toys R Us went out of business. It did contribute to Toys R Us going out of business. And Solo is a flop. Solo lost, I think it's $50 million. Suppose, before they made the Solo film, we have to cast the young Han Solo, don't we? So we got to cast him so we can make this movie. Well, we need more diversity in... I'm sorry, I'm making fun of my people. I'm a progressive type person. But I make fun of everybody. Like, we need more diversity here. Okay, so Solo needs to be a black transsexual because that needs to be represented over here, okay? That's just how it is. And they're like, yes. Yes. More diversity is better. This is going to be a hit. This is going to be a hit. This is going to be one of the greatest Star Wars films. You know what? It's going to be the most expensive Star Wars film ever made. Solo. And it is. It is the most expensive one. Is that okay to cast Han as a black transsexual? That's not going to work.
Don't worry about us. We're ready for anything.
Drugs don't make your problems go away. They just create more.
They didn't retcon He-Man. They simply created a new character, tied it in so smoothly with the original thing that already exists, and was able to serve that literal diversity purpose. It's the perfect microcosm to what we're talking about in Star Wars. They literally needed to force diversity. But they didn't have to force it, baby. They just wrote a new character, perfectly created, didn't upset no old school He-Man fans. In fact, it brought us all into the fold to watch more of that stuff, because I watched She-Ra too. She-Ra, 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 I am She-Ra.
Only a few others share this secret. Among them are Lighthope, Madame Raz, and Cowl. Together, we and my friends of the Great Rebellion strive to free Etheria from the evil forces of Horda.
You know, they had lots of dudes with lots of more pink underwear in that one, though. It was so funny. Look what they do with the heart.
I knew this would happen.